If your poster only works when people stop and study it, it's already failing on social media. Estevan Silveira's official artwork for Evil Dead Burn works for the exact opposite reason. It's one brutal silhouette and one dominant colour, and one image that you understand almost instantly. Now, I recently broke down 5 official Evil Dead Burn posters created by my fellow Poster Posse artist, but this piece was released afterwards, and I think it deserved its own video rather than being squeezed into the end of that video. Because although this artwork belongs to the same campaign, it sells the film in a completely different way. The first thing that hits you is the structure. You have this burning, decaying arm kind of rising vertically through the center of the poster, with the hand gripping the long weapon that cuts horizontally across the image. And together, those two shapes almost create a cross through the composition, and that gives the artwork a very strong silhouette before you've even processed even the smaller details. And that matters. Social media artwork needs to survive being reduced to the size of a phone screen, and at that scale, detail disappears, but the shape doesn't. The vertical arm gives the poster height and force, the weapon creates a width and tension, and the giant red Evil Dead Burn title sits behind both, locking the whole image together, and nothing feels loosely placed, everything is pushing towards the center. Then you notice what the hand is actually holding. At one end there's this skeletal figure, at the other the weapon narrows into a blade-like point. The hand itself is burning, the pendant hangs beneath it, and suddenly the image starts to feel less like a conventional movie scene and more like some kind of cursed relic. And that is what makes the concept memorable in my opinion. It doesn't try to explain the entire film. It gives us one object that appears to carry the violence, decay and supernatural energy of the story inside of it. That is much stronger than simply filling the poster with characters. The viewer doesn't need to know who everyone is. They only need to understand what this thing is. It's dangerous. The lower part of the image gives us the second major read. The arm rises from this burning altar surrounded by flames, roses and scraps of imagery. It creates the feeling that the weapon hasn't simply been picked up, it's been pulled out of something dead and hellish, or perhaps something that should be dead. And that ambiguity is useful. Horror becomes weaker when every question is answered. This artwork gives us enough information to build our own explanation, but not enough to make the image feel safe or predictable. The fire also performs several jobs at once. It connects the bottom of the artwork to the hand, and it guides your eye upward. It separates the central figure from the black background, and it gives the entire image movement without needing a complicated action scene. Your eye starts at the title, then moves towards the burning hand, then travels across to the weapon, and then drops into the altar and the flames below. That is controlled visual hierarchy. The poster knows where it wants you to look, and it never leaves you searching for the focal point. The color palette is just as controlled. There is almost no cool color competing with attention. The black creates the negative space, the red gives the title the horror identity, yellow and orange are reserved for the flames and the brightest parts of the focal image. That means the hottest areas of the colour are almost the most important areas of the composition and where your eye is drawn to. Colour and hierarchy are working together brilliantly. And because the title is enormous, it doesn't feel like branding that's just been an afterthought. It becomes part of the environment. The figure cuts through the letters and the flames interrupt them. The artwork and typography feel physically connected, and that is especially effective in a promotional piece because the film title remains readable even when the composition is cropped or viewed quickly. Then there's the line at the top, "Next stop hell." It's small, but because the rest of the composition is so direct, the tagline doesn't need to compete. It adds one final layer of tone. The image already feels like something being raised, carried and presented. That line turns it into a journey with only one destination. And what I like most about this piece is that it doesn't just rely on realism, it relies on graphic impact. The anatomy is distorted, the colours are aggressive, the forms are heavily stylized, but every exaggeration supports the same emotional idea, where you have the heat, the violence, the decay of the arm, and something supernatural being dragged back into the world. That is the difference between style that merely looks interesting and style that actually serves the brief. Estevan Silveira's artwork works because it commits. It doesn't just attempt to sell every part of the film. It chooses one unforgettable image and pushes it as hard as possible, and that is the lesson artists should take away from this. When you're designing for social media, do not begin by asking how much information you can fit into the frame. Ask what single shape, object, or idea could make someone stop scrolling. Then make every other decision support that. The composition, the color, the typography, the detail that surrounds it, the atmosphere. It's all one image, one hierarchy, one clear emotional promise. Now, if you enjoy these professional breakdowns of movie posters, comic art, and entertainment design, subscribe to the channel because I'm going to keep analysing the visual decisions that make artwork communicate with real impact. And let me know in the comments below what you think of this artwork. And if you are an artist trying to build a more professional career around your work, I cover pricing, positioning, portfolios, clients, and creative income in my book, The Profitable Artist, and the link is in the description below. And as always, thank you for watching.